So, welcome back, Ben. Lovely to see you again. Thanks for joining us this morning. I reckon you must be feeling pretty exhausted after yesterday. Give us your reflections on what looked to be an absolutely amazing day.
So for me, it was a first, believe it or not. I've done rallies before, but I haven't done rallies with, literally hundreds of thousands of people. I've perhaps spoken to millions of people before, but that's always been on television or the radio or whatever. And It's so much easier to do it when you have an anonymous screen in front of you, or a very congenial, charming presenter such as yourself. It's much more challenging when you're facing the people, because the people are there, they're going to give you your reaction. And so believe it or not, or perhaps believe, no reason not to believe it, I was quite nervous going on stage, and you've got, your 5 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever it is to communicate your message, and it's all up here, and you just got to remember, can I get it out? But apart from me, I think the event was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. I was on BBC Radio 5 Live this morning, and all they could focus on was the 25 arrests apparently that took place yesterday. And by their own admission, they said there were 110,000 people there. So by my calculation, that's 0.02%. But, when I was there, it looked like, first of all, much more than 110,000 people.
Yeah.
I think the crowd snaked all the way from the middle of Whitehall, which is where the stage was, to Portcullis House on Parliament Square, and then it turned and went right across Westminster Bridge, as well as taking up quite a lot of the northern side of the embankment. And no way is that just 100,000 people. That's got to be triple that in my mind. But all the people I saw were of a carnival spirit. Yeah, they wanted to say some rude things about the Prime Minister, but who doesn't? And that's just getting it out of your system. But it was a carnival spirit. There was lots of music played. It was upbeat. All the speakers spoke about nothing other than, peace, prosperity, pulling together, proud nation state, our flags, our union, our country, our history, none of which should be offensive to anyone. All of it should be uplifting. And it was designed to be an uplifting event. I know that that's what Tommy Robinson wanted. He went to a lot of trouble. I'm aware of this because, he told me he went to a lot of trouble to try and get Westminster Council to provide adequate screens so that people could actually see what was going on, because that's a key component of engaging those who've come and, keeping them content. He wanted loads of his own security. He pleaded and wanted, the police there, which they were there. And we wanted nothing collectively than a carnival, happy, spirited rally. I know people called it a protest. It was a protest in the sense that we're, sending a signal to the government, but it was really a rally. It was a rallying cry for the British people to, unite. And I love the fact that it's called Unite the Kingdom too.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Ben, the diversity of the crowd yesterday as well was simply amazing. I mean, the camera kept panning around and we're seeing faces there from all different backgrounds, creeds and colours. And it just made me feel so proud that we are genuinely in stark contrast to what some of the things that are being said in the mainstream media. We are genuinely uniting the people and uniting the kingdom. And it makes me extremely proud to see people of all backgrounds standing together. But the one thing they have in common is red, white and blue in their heart. And I just think that it's just so uplifting.
Yeah, and I think that's what the establishment and our detractors don't like. The fact that we're unified around the red, white and blue. They find that offensive. And it comes back to a subject you and I have discussed many, many times, which is that the establishment essentially is anti-British. It doesn't see its role as governing the British Isles, doing stuff for the benefit of the British people or for the British state. It sees its role as a member of some kind of global set of, institutions rather than countries, coming together and giving up power to supranational institutions. That's how Keir Starmer sees his job. I don't think he really sees his job as the proud Prime Minister of the United Kingdom protecting our interests and promoting our interests. He sees his job as going to the G7 or the EU or whatever, whichever international body it is, and hobnobbing with his mates and dreaming up ideas that they will apply right across Europe, right across the United States of America and elsewhere. And that's not his job, you know, and fundamentally that's why they stand against the red, white and blue, because when we identify ourselves as British, we are opposing him in his global aspirations. And Parliament is hijacked by all of this. You know, it was one thing I want to say in my speech, and this is a problem of not having notes, is that, you know, Parliament is in contempt of the people, and there are visual examples of it, because when we were in the 1980s, you'll remember this, Paul, you could walk right up to the Commons or to the Lords. There were no barriers, nothing. And progressively over time, first of all, fences were introduced and police, a little stand for the police was introduced and barricades were introduced. And now if you go, I don't know if you've seen this, I went there the other day to the Lords for a book launch. And there's a 9-foot tall metal fence all the way down the front of Parliament. That is a symptom and an optical example of the way those that govern us are separating themselves from the people. Yeah. And the reason they need that 9-foot tall metal fence is because they stand in opposition to us. They keep doing things that we, the people, don't want. Yeah. And in order to protect themselves and thereby reveal their disconnection with the people, they've been compelled to put up this large fence.
So, I mean, that is a physical barrier of an actual physical barrier between them and their people.
Absolutely. And it's when I was there trying to get admission, the policeman inevitably didn't have my name on the list. But I felt almost like I was back at school and going to see the headmaster. You know, I was in trouble because I was trying to get through these metal gates. And that's not how it should be. That's not how we should be.
Not at all. Can I just take you back to your moments on stage, Ben? I mean, we spoke before the event and I said, Ben, are you ready to feel the love? Do you know what I meant now?
Yeah, well, again, it's one thing doing it behind a screen and it's another doing it in reality. You really never know how many people even know who the hell you are, you know. And so it was lovely when I was sitting at the back of the stage waiting for the speaker before me to finish. And the people in the crowd could see I was sitting at the back of the stage and lots of hands were going up and waving at me and thumbs up. And it got me going, actually. It got my sort of, you know, spirits up, ready for my speech. And then when I got out, there was a huge cheer, I think, wasn't there? There was a huge cheer.
Ben, I think you're being modest. I think there was a big chant of Ben Habib, Ben Habib.
Yeah. And then they said something equally sort of emotive, but opposite in its sentiment about the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I think that moment's gone a bit viral this morning, Ben.
I love that. Let it go viral. The hell with it.
Oh dear. But look, Ben, as usual, the mainstream media have been busy spreading their usual lies this morning, but there has been a noticeable change in their reporting and their attitude. They surely can't continue to label a gathering of this side. I mean, some estimates are more than 1 million people. Whether that is right or not, I don't know. I'm not qualified to comment on that. But they can't continue to label such a gathering of that sort of size as all being racist, far-right lunatics, can they?
No, they can't. Though, as I say, I was on BBC Radio 5 Live this morning, and that's how that's how it was classified by some commentator called Seema something or the other. She came on and she said it was a gathering of far-right extremists, and you know, the 25 arrests, and I said, well, what about the 900 arrests at the Palestinian Action march the other day? They forget that. And what about all the arrests that take place at Notting Hill Carnival? Yeah, every year, stabbings take place, and they keep saying, there was very little violence. It's a phenomenal success. It's not. Every year, ever since I remember the Notting Hill Carnival, it's been violent. And so they sort of coat the event with their prejudice, and they present it the way they wish it to be presented. Notting Hill Carnival, good. Loads of people in love with their country, wanting their country to be protected, bad. You know. And the other thing I'll just quickly say, if I may, and it's something that had escaped me. Of course, our flags are inherently Christian. St. George's flag is Christian, St. Andrew's, Ulster banner. The Welsh have got a dragon for reasons which are only known to themselves, but it's St. David effectively, but they're all Christian, and the Union flag is, clearly a Christian flag. It's a combination of our various saints. And maybe that's what offends them as well, that it's a Christian thing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the importance of Advance UK, not just standing for our cultural Christian roots, which so many people talk about, but our constitutional Christian roots, which are evidenced through our flag. Our flag represents our constitutional Christian roots. And we've got to make that case. It's not just about culture. It's about constitution. We are Christian constitution country, a constitutionally Christian country. And people coming to this country, even if they have other religions, and they can practice those, of course, but they need to recognize that they're in a Christian country and pay respect to that Christianity.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, I've got so many questions for you this morning, Ben, but I'll try and keep them as reasonable as possible. I mean, look, you met Tommy on a couple of occasions now. We all know that he's a human being and therefore he's not absolutely perfect. No one is. But how have you found him to be so far?
I find him to be nothing other than charming, affable, extremely engaging. And I can't ascribe any of the, vitriol and the way that he's painted. I can't ascribe that to him through my own meetings with him. I can't do it.
That's the way I found him, Ben. I mean, look, if I find something bad, I'll have to say it. But at the moment, I've not found anything bad, and I've certainly not seen anything that remotely resembles the man that the mainstream media like to portray. I mean, look, we've got a situation now, Ben, where like GB News, Talk TV, they appear to have ghosted you for some reason. But this is what matters. Yesterday, with the citizen journalists across the platforms, we had over 2 million people watching live. Dan Wootton alone has already had more than 1 million views on his live stream.
Has he?
He has, really? Yeah. Wow. Now, we checked this up yesterday deliberately. During that stream, Sky News had 1,000 people watching their channel. 1,000. Citizen journalists covering that had over 2 million watching live, over 1 million on Tommy's X feed alone. So I think it's fair to say, Ben, we are now the media and the public just aren't buying this nonsense anymore.
No, I mean, I being frank with you, I was not over the moon about being cancelled by GB News and Talk. I don't think that they had valid reasons to do it. But the reason I wasn't happy about it was not any sort of slight to my sensibilities, but that I feared that I may not be able to do what I need to do as a politician for Advance UK to get the message out for Advance UK, because they were very helpful. GB News, undoubtedly, GB News has changed the way politics is discussed in this country. Yeah. It's given a voice to people like me and others. And I was fearful that having been cancelled for them for no good reason, that I would be neutered in my ability to get the message out. But I was cancelled by GB News the day we announced Advance UK, 30th of June. And since then, we've now got over 33,000 members without the support. And that makes us, by the way, the SNP, which is the next largest party, has 54,000 members. And then you go to the Conservatives and so on. So we're right up there. We are right in the mainstream of politics now, without the support of any mainstream media. Yep. So the channels are yourself, Dan Wootton, Pete McCormack, Winston Marshall, and so on and so forth. These are the channels through which we're going to get out.
Yeah, these are the people that are offering the public the truth. Ben, I was out in Spain last night, went out for dinner with some friends last night, and we were approached every 50 yards. We were being approached by people saying, "Oh, we couldn't be there today, but we were watching. What a great day. We watched Ben. Ben was great." I gather that you had a big spike in membership for Advance during the day as well.
Well, so I got off stage at about 5 p.m., not the best time to be looking for membership going up on a Saturday evening. But overnight, we've had 1,500 new members overnight.
Brilliant.
And I haven't checked this morning. I've been out to the gym. I haven't checked this morning. But I imagine that, it's accelerated Sunday morning when people have got up and had a coffee and, come back to life, as it were. Gone and thought, right, let's join. And we've just got to do more of this. What we've got to do is engage all the people who came yesterday in politics. We've got to get them to actually become members of Advance, become the army for Advance UK, the proverbial army, in case the thought police are watching this, the proverbial army, to get our campaigning machine going. Nothing will stop us. If the people who came to that rally yesterday, that protest yesterday, join Advance UK, every single one of them, we would actually win the next general election, Paul. That's how seismic it would be.
Absolutely. And I keep saying to people, anyone out there that doubts it, listen to what we're saying, because we are going to win. Trust me. Now, I'll tell you what else struck me yesterday. That, let's say 1 million people took the time to travel to London to protect our free speech and, more importantly, the future of our children. Yet you were the only politician brave enough and who cares enough to be there for the people, to support and to represent them. What the hell is wrong with these cowards, Ben?
Yeah, so it's very interesting the way you've put that I was the only politician brave enough. And in saying that, what you've revealed is the problem with public discourse at the moment. It's so hijacked by a particular form of ideology, which includes, by the way, Tommy Robinson, the persona, that anything to do with Tommy Robinson is basically dealing with the devil, and that if you were prepared to share a platform with him, you are clearly supping with the devil, and you are either mad or you're brave, depending on which side of the political debate you're on. And people like, I'm not going to name names, but you know who I'm thinking about, they look at it and they go, well, they don't want to take the risk of being cancelled. But what they should do is two things, in my view. They should sit down and reflect on what is the right and wrong of this. Where does that lie? Is it really genuinely true that Tommy Robinson and anything to do with him is so bloody awful that even though he can command nearly 1 million or 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, whatever number of people turn up, he can command them to come to London at vast cost to themselves, present themselves to make them to make their voices heard, and yet he's such a bad man. Yeah, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't make sense.
The right and wrongs of it doesn't add up. And then the other thing that I think I got three points to make. The second point is that as politicians in a democracy, they should welcome any opportunity to address the British people, and they mustn't be so brittle with their own sensitivities that, I can only address the British people if the British people are presented to me in this fashion or that fashion, only through this channel or that channel. And then the last thing I would say, and this is the biggest hypocritical thing of the establishment, is it absolutely horrified me when Michelle O'Neill, the First Minister of Northern Ireland, absolute abomination that you could have Sinn Féin leader as the First Minister of Northern Ireland, was invited to the coronation of the King. This is a woman who leads a party that won't even take their seats in Parliament because they hold our Parliament in contempt. And yet the establishment had no problem inviting her to the coronation. And I know that all our politicians, our mainstream politicians, have no problem sharing a platform with her or with her boss, Mary Lou McDonald, apologists for the IRA, an organization that has killed British citizens. And yet they would vilify someone like me standing on a stage addressing British citizens. This is the topsy-turvy nature of cancel culture and the ideology gone completely wrong.
For anyone watching this, Ben, have you not worked it out yet? I mean, it's all there, very evident, and the evidence is being laid out in front of your very eyes by the day. And, look, Ben, I know that you're reluctant to mention his name, but I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to say, where was Nigel Farage yesterday, or his representatives? Where were Reform, the so-called party of the people? Where was Robert Jenrick, who pretends suddenly, all of a sudden, to understand the problems? And, where were they? Where were they? And I've got to also say that I've got my ear very close to the ground to the people in Clacton. I've a lot of friends down there. You have amazing support down there. In fact, I have videos, Ben, from Friday night when they have their regular Friday night little demo. Again, I don't want to make you blush, but they were chanting your name, no one else's. Nigel's constituents down there in Clacton are not happy at all. They feel they've been let down. And I feel that we are making huge inroads with the genuine people of this country, because they realise that we are a party, we are people that genuinely care, genuinely listen, and genuinely have their best interests at heart. And I'm going to say, last of all, I'm sorry, if these people are not brave enough to stand on a platform in front of allegedly their own voters,
I know.
How can we trust them to be brave enough to manage our country?
Absolutely. And the changes required to be delivered in the way this country is governed are vast. It's going to require real fortitude to do it. And they haven't got the courage to face the British people.
Absolutely.
Robert Jenrick, I'm just going to pick up on him. Farage, fine, we all know what Farage is like. He's neither here nor there. I mean, I've almost, it's not worth mentioning him. But Robert Jenrick could have really stolen a march. The Conservative Party could have stolen a march on reform. And they would have put me in difficulties if Robert Jenrick had turned up to speak, because then his argument would be, well, you don't need Ben, I'm here. But actually he wasn't there. They vacated the field.
And Ben, you know what, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, mate, I think it's too late for all of them. I think they're done, I really do. And whilst I'm still personally getting messages from people saying, that reform offer us our best chance, even that is dwindling, Ben. People are seeing through the smoke and mirrors. But look, I don't want to go too far down that route. Let's stay on the positives. Look, the British people yesterday, I believe, and I'm not, blowing smoke here, Ben, but I believe the British people saw a genuine man of the people in yourself. I think you proved to everyone yesterday that you are our man for the 21st century. And if you don't mind me saying, I know you're perhaps going to, but you're our modern day Winston Churchill, Ben. We need you. The people need you. I know it's a massive accolade, but...
That is a huge accolade. I mean, he's one of the greatest Britons that has ever lived. And
Ben,
if I could be just a thumbnail of his, that would be a massive accolade in itself, I think.
Well, look, Ben, I know it's putting a huge weight on your shoulders. I understand that, and I'm sorry to do that. But this is our nation's darkest hour since the end of the Second World War, and we need a heroic leader like Churchill. It
is. I mean, make no mistake, we are facing our constitutional cultural extinction. That is what we are facing. I know we've got massive economic issues, but they are born out of the fact that our constitution and our culture has been so damaged. Mass immigration, net zero, you can point to all the issues that have caused our economy to collapse, but they're born out of our government not having their eye on the ball when it comes to our constitution and culture, the people, what we are, what we stand for. And not a single shot's been fired, but this is every as big a threat as we faced back in 1939, no doubt.
I truly believe that.
Yeah, Western civilization is hugely threatened at the moment, and we need to pull together very quickly, and we need to do it. The reason we need to do it quickly is that if we don't do it quickly, I think the ability to do it peacefully will disappear. The people will lose faith, not just in Farage and Starmer and Kemi Badenoch, and they'll start losing faith in people like you and me, the people. If we can't get this done now, they'll lose faith in us, and they'll take matters into their own hands, and that would be terrible.
That would be catastrophic, wouldn't it? It'll be terrible. Yeah.
And so people like Starmer, I was saying this on BBC Radio 5, instead of trying to classify everyone as far right, listen to what they're bloody saying. Try and listen to it, and try and see what the message is, and if there's any validity in the message, and try and change the way you're behaving. Address the
issues.
Address the issues.
I think he's beyond listening, but there you go. I mean, look, Ben, I want to ask you about Charlie Kirk. Scenes last week that were just simply horrendous, and I was very touched yesterday. The tributes to Charlie, the pictures of him in the crowd. Very, very difficult to watch that was. But I've got to say, Ben, I feel that the mainstream media, in part, the only person truly responsible for what happened last week was the person that pulled the trigger. But I do feel that in part the mainstream media have been guilty of putting targets on people's backs, Tommy included, and that we need to be able to get back to being able to disagree or to agree to disagree without the use of violence. Do you think the media have something to answer for here?
Absolutely, no doubt. I mean, even this morning, to paint those people as far right, people of whom they know nothing, for Starmer to paint the protesters after the Southport killings as far right, about whom he knew nothing, is basically revealing his contempt for the people. And if you have contempt for the people, you will put targets on their backs. The reason Lucy Connolly went to prison, Peter Lynch went to prison and died in prison, and others are still in prison, was because the Prime Minister put a target on their back by classifying them as far right. And then the criminal justice system felt at liberty to do with them that which it wished to do. Yeah. And it's the same with the killer of, I can't remember, it was Tyrone or something, who killed Charlie Kirk. He no doubt knew that killing is illegal and immoral, but in his own mind, he'd come to terms with justified it because somehow he'd come to believe that Charlie Kirk was the devil. Yeah. And the only way that Charlie Kirk in his mind could have been the devil is if the media had painted him to be the devil. And the media's got to grow up. It can't be indoctrinating, pushing its own agenda all the time, and anyone who stands against their agenda, they're the devil. You know, Tommy Robinson is the Voldemort of British politics, isn't he? You're not even allowed to say his name. He has become the living, breathing Voldemort. And, you know, just to read, it's not about Tommy, it's not about me, it's about the people. And I'll just go back to this. When you've got a political class and a media that's prepared to categorize millions of British people as far right, then you know that they're not thinking straight. So individuals will be vilified, targets will be put on our back. And no doubt people will try to, I mean, they've already tried it. Alex Phillips was on X last week calling me weird. You know, she may not like the fact.
Very disappointing, Ben. I'm sorry, that was very disappointing. And below her, I thought.
It's an attempt to try and dehumanize me, isn't it? It's to say this guy's he's a weirdo. And next step, he's far right weirdo. He's an extremist. And once, if she's successful in making me a weird far right extremist, then someone pulling a trigger on me will think, well, I'm getting rid of a far right weird extremist. He's vermin. He's got to go.
It's disgraceful. I'm totally with you, Ben. I absolutely agree. And I think some of the rhetoric that comes out of the mainstream media is appalling. And I think that if someone like myself was to do it as an independent, they'd probably be pulling me in for incitement. But
absolutely. Absolutely. And it comes down to this again, that the establishment have their own ideology, and those who abide by it are saints, and those who question it get absolutely nailed.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, before we go, I just want to draw your attention to Sir Trevor Phillips this morning, Sunday Morning Politics. If we could just play the clip, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, please.
Is it possible that the person most taken aback by the huge turnout at yesterday's Unite the Kingdom demonstration was its organiser, the hard-right activist known as Tommy Robinson? 150,000 people crammed into central London, most carrying national flags, the Union Jack, the Cross of St George, even the Scottish saltire, protesting about immigration, about free speech, and about the decline of Christianity. There was some fearsome rhetoric, including from Elon Musk, who called for the overthrow of the British government. At the margins, there was some hooliganism. But I think that for those who oppose Robinson and his ilk, the most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marchers were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them. They're draining support to parties like Reform and the Greens. And yet a man recently out of jail, condemned as an extremist thug by most mainstream media outlets, can rally a demo the size of the entire population of Cambridge or Blackpool. A feat you couldn't imagine either Sir Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch pulling off anytime soon. Perhaps the people are sending us all a message. Let's see if anyone at Westminster's listening.
Well,
now,
I'm absolutely stunned by that, Paul. I'm stunned. Yeah. I didn't see that. I'm stunned.
I mean, for me, it's still riddled with inaccuracies and innuendo, but I will have to say, is that the closest that we've seen so far to the mainstream media saying this ain't going away?
Yeah, I'm so impressed. I mean, the numbers may be wrong and the way he portrayed some of it was inaccurate, but I'm impressed he went. I'm impressed that he did his own due diligence, as it were, and engaged with the people and came away with the right result. And there can be nothing more uplifting and unifying than singing Jerusalem, at least for the English crowd. It's our English national anthem, really.
Exactly. I don't know why you would find it alarming that most of those people were the type of people that you would find in an English country pub somewhere, but there you go. Look, Ben, what's your? I've had you for long enough. I know you're an extremely busy man on a Sunday. What is your final message to those that came along yesterday and to the millions and millions watching? Because Ben, I don't know if you realise, but by the end of this week, those videos that are currently now online from yesterday will exceed viewings of 50, 60, 80 million people. So what is your final message to those that came along yesterday, to the watching public, and to those who are supporting Advance and maybe want to support Advance, but feel they need to see us grow a little bit more before they do so? What is your final message today?
My final message is that there is no time like the present. Look at what is available to you on the political landscape at the moment, with the exception of Advance, and there's really no real option but to come to Advance. If you believe in a proud, independent, prosperous United Kingdom where nation state and our Christian constitution and the people of this country are put first, where freedoms are observed, indoctrination is stopped, freedom of speech is promoted, the supranational reach of the EU, the WHO, and so on is ejected from our body politic. Our bureaucracy that has so hijacked us is neutered. And if you believe in equality under the law, then there is only one party to support, and that is Advance. And please don't dilly-dally. We've got a very short period of time in which to make Advance the biggest political force in the United Kingdom. And it can be. And it can be. The people are waking up. Join Advance. Join Advance. Send a signal. Come and join my party. I will not let you down. I will keep swinging that bat until either I am absolutely defeated and bloodied in my defeat, or I prevail and we prevail collectively. That is my promise. Join Advance and we'll make this happen. If you don't join and you sit on the sidelines and you look, well, then don't be surprised if things don't work out.
What a great message, Ben, and I absolutely agree. Guys, get yourselves out there today. I'll put a link in the video description below. Join us. Join Ben, join the team, join the People's Patriotic Party, the party that really does stand up for you, for the people, for your children and for our country. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Oh, Ben, it's always a pleasure. You are going to be a busy man again this week, so I hope you've got your very best tie pressed and your shirts ready, because I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Ben Habib over the next few weeks and months.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
All the best, Ben. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Take care.